name is Josue Briseno. I'm a forward-thinking HR professional with over 20 years of domestic and international experience. Currently, I'm leading the people agenda for the 7th largest pure-play software company in the world. And I help people to align personal, professional, and organizational goals. My passion is people, but my true passion is to help people, and that's what fulfills my life. Okay, so I'm gonna cover in the next 30 minutes or so this ambitious agenda. What I want to do is I want to talk about the combination between graphology and human resources. Also, I'm going to talk about different best practices, case studies, and the 3A model. And lastly, but not least, graphology in the US. A friend of mine, actually he's a Brazilian friend, once said to me, graphology and human resources is like a relationship. It's when you tell people that you love them, it's pretty easy to say, but very difficult to prove. So this is a competitive advantage when we have human resources in graphology. So what happens if organizations could have more choices based on their specific business needs? Well, the outcome of that should be increasing personal satisfaction, personal development, personal retention, increase morale, culture, and lastly, decrease hiring and termination costs. So that's exactly what companies are looking for. And if we can combine graphology with human resources, you'll see savings in your organizations based on that. Oh, sorry, I'm going backwards. Okay, so picking up from Robert, in 2012, the federal government approved the competence ECO 293. So this competence is designed to certify professionals in graphology in Mexico. So based on this competence, what we've been doing is certifying professionals so that they can conduct assessments, evaluations, and so that they can cover the private and the public sector. Yes?
I was just curious, so is it a competence test, or do they have to complete a certain amount of hours, or what is that?
It's a combination. There's a specific body of the competence, but what we evaluate are behaviors, skills, and the technical background. So it's a very ambitious certification process, but it covers all these components. So that's why the federal government approved this methodology, and based on this methodology, we have experts conducting evaluations and assessments in Mexico. The purpose of this standard is to have a standard methodology, and so that we don't deviate. And it's very important to have a methodology, because if we don't have a methodology, we're just wasting our time. And probably that's something that should be evaluated in different countries that we've been dealing with graphology, because that's essential, that's instrumental for the success of graphology in the US. So this journey has been very interesting, and it's been challenging, specifically in the Latin America region. As we mentioned before, we've been exposed to different countries in the Latin America region, starting from Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, Venezuela, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, Argentina, and most recently Brazil. So it's a very interesting journey, but different assessments based on graphology have been conducted. And that's why Robert mentioned before that this is a movement, okay? This is not new. This is a big movement that is happening in the Latin America region. Right now, we have Mexico certified since 2012. We are in the process of getting Colombia. We are in the middle of the process of getting Argentina using the same competence that we created in Mexico. And we are actually, Robert told me last night that Ecuador has already been approved. The government has already approved the competence. So we have another country in the list that it's been approved. I want to share a quote with you. Do you agree with this quote? There's a big dilemma. When I have my conversations with senior leaders and some other HR professionals, there's a dilemma there. What's the essence of an organization? Well, you'll be surprised. When I ask this question to CEOs, VPs, or senior leaders, they say customers.
They say that? Oh my God.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, definitely.
If my CEO is saying the most important aspect of the company are customers, well, are customers? And that's where I have all my different opinions, right? I'm an HR professional, and the purpose of my position, the purpose of my effort is people. So that's a different conversation, but I just wanted to share this quote with you. So how people create value? Well, there's a group of values, there's a group of norms. The outcome of that are behaviors, specific attitudes. What has happened with HR in the last 10 years? Well, it's been a long journey. At the beginning, HR was responsible of papers and spreadsheets, and probably payroll. Then it started evolving and was centralizing and standardizing processes. Suddenly, HR became a strategic partner. We started sitting at the table with those decision makers. And then we have business leaders. So what do business leaders do? Well, they serve as consultants. They provide recommendations. We provide solutions and observations. But we allow leaders to make the final call. That's the big difference between HR 10 years ago and now. So if you ask me what's the biggest concern that I have is that my leaders listen to my recommendations. I cannot force them to make that decision. I'm just providing options for them based on different analysis, based on different strategies, and different business projections. So what do we have as a result of that? Well, we have HR leaders more engaged, and this is exactly where graphology and human resources happen to meet. I'm going to cover in this presentation 3 segments. Basically, we are going to talk about talent acquisition, coaching, and employee relations. So how graphology has been able to impact these 3 segments in organizations. That's what we are going to talk today. Have you heard about the 3A model? No? Well, this is the ability to hire, the ability to coach, and the ability to handle employee relation issues based on graphology. So let me spell out in greater detail what I'm talking about. This is not all about hiring people, onboarding people into organizations. This goes above and beyond. So what we want to do is we want to find the right talent for the right place at the right moment. And graphology is instrumental for that. I've been asking for different experts in graphology, and I understand how graphology works. However, this is just one element of information to make the final decision. For instance, there was a position for one of the former companies that I was working for. This was a sales position, a senior sales position. In the past, there were a lot of issues impacting this division. Attrition rate increased 12% that year. And I was talking to the hiring manager, we need to do something different here. We need to review the job description again, and we need to understand what's happening here. So we conducted a pulse survey to understand what the people was talking about. Also, when we started the process to backfill that position, I recommended to let the process run. We finally got 3 candidates, 3 final candidates, and with their permission, we conducted an assessment based on graphology. So from those 3 employees, I was able to sit at the table with the hiring manager and some other senior leaders to provide my recommendations. Well, from these 3 candidates, this is my top notch. And I have a SWOT analysis, I have a group of interviewers, I have different psychometric tests as well, and some other assessments, and finally, graphology. So with all those elements of information, I was able to present my final recommendation to the hiring manager, and he was on board. So then, 1 year later, I conducted another pulse survey, and employee engagement increased 39% for that specific division. And that's the importance of having graphology combined with HR. And I just believe that this is a competitive advantage. Then employee engagement takes place. 85% of turnover, it's because of their managers. 10% because of compensation issues. And only 5% because of working conditions. Isn't that shocking? So our managers and frontline supervisors trigger attrition rates, performance improvement, and employee satisfaction. So we need to train our frontline supervisors to tackle that. And that's exactly where the next segment of the 3A model comes up, which is coaching. When you use graphology assessments, you're able to coach employees and leaders. When we have people happy, we have productivity up. When we have people engaged, we have a good culture, a good environment. And everybody's willing to follow the organizational strategy. Otherwise, everybody is looking at different directions. And from an HR standpoint of view, we don't want to have that. That's costly effective. And we are not at a good position to spend that money. So I have an example, a case that happened in Brazil. From a group of 7 leaders, one of them was appointed the VP of Sales and Country Manager for Latin America. During his learning curve, he was struggling. He was not connecting with the people. His leadership style was weak. He was not attracting their attention, and people was not following, basically. So I was relatively new to that company. I have 3 months in that company. So I talked to him, explained, well, what I can do is let's run some poll surveys. Let me interview people. Let's see what's happening. I want to talk to your frontline supervisors, your managers, and have a better understanding about where we are at right now. And most importantly, I need your permission to conduct an assessment based on graphology. He accepted. It was a very good assessment. And I was able to provide direct, straightforward, and honest feedback. Human resources is seen as a neutral party. We don't protect employees anymore. We don't protect employers anymore. We are impartial. That's why we are business leaders, because we don't have preference. Having said that, when I finished my coaching, which I spent 3 months, every week we talked 2 hours for 3 months. And he was receptive about the feedback. He was pleased that somebody was able to provide honest feedback, because some other leaders were unable to do that. So what happened was employee morale increased 12% within 6 months. He's able to set a strategy for the entire region, and people is following him. When he conducts those quarterly business reviews, people is following him. People is listening to him. So communication is not an issue anymore. And graphology has been instrumental for that. I want to share these results from Gallup and Deloitte. It's shocking. $1.5 billion the US is spending every year to improve employee engagement in the US. Surprisingly, the average says that only 30% of employees are engaged with their organizations in the US. 50% are not engaged, and 20% actively disengaged. Probably you've heard that there's a lot of talk around employee engagement activities, initiatives, how to retain people, how to keep people motivated. At one of my former organizations, I was responsible of a site with 18,000 employees, 1,800 employees. During the Q4, which was the busiest quarter of the year, we had to have all those employees on site in order to deliver and in order to meet our goals. So how do you keep people between October and December engaged, working 120%? So for that particular quarter, I spent $72,000 for employee engagement programs. And my site was number 3 out of 27 sites in the US. So graphology is instrumental for all those initiatives from an HR standpoint of view. The third segment from the 3A model is employee relations. How many of you have held with employee relation issues in the last 12 months? That's pretty common. We have to deal with the issues every single day. Somebody is fighting with another person, somebody is disengaged, somebody is having some discriminatory comments, somebody is harassing, somebody is threatening. Oh my, it's really tough to handle all of that. So that's why graphology takes place again. And again, this is a competitive advantage between graphology and human resources. I conduct different investigation techniques. However, graphology is another element of it. So normally what happens is, let's say that we have employees fighting on the floor or in the field. HR has to get those statements and witnesses to testify what happened, what was happening at that moment, and we talk directly with employees. What was happening? Okay, what you explained. You have a paper, describe everything. That's another element of information for HR practitioners. So we conduct investigations. For one particular case, I remember that this was an employee that was working on the warehouse. We had a problem with the work lift. A lot of product was damaged, and he violated different policies about following standard procedures and safety procedures. When we had the confrontation and we asked the employee, what happened? Just be honest. It was a mistake. We are humans. And again, HR is impartial. I'm here to help you. If you're willing to help me, I'm willing to help you. So what happened? I don't know, something went wrong with the work lift, and somebody else screwed up. Really? So what I did is, okay, I need your statement. And then I went back and double checked the camera. It was the opposite. It was intentional. Sabotage. Yes?
When you ask them to write something down, a description of the altercation or their problems, is that when you use graphology and you look at their handwriting? How do you bring the graphology into your employee relationship?
I always ask for their permission. I have the right to request a statement. And internal policies and company policies support that. I have the right as an employer or as an HR professional. However, I cannot conduct an assessment without his permission or her permission. And that's where I develop and engage in that conversation with the employee. And, you know, it's a negotiation technique as well. Sometimes you have to put more pressure. Sometimes you don't have to. If the employee is willing to cooperate, or maybe I have to decide to approach this case differently. So it's always variable. We don't have a specific script that A, B, C, or D. Okay? So with this situation in particular, the employee was fired, unfortunately, and we had all the elements in place. And in 2 years that I worked for that company, we never received any labor lawsuits. So again, I believe that graphology is instrumental nowadays at any single organization. It doesn't matter if this is a small, medium, or large organization. But that's exactly what we need to do. We need to gain respect. We need to gain trust from leaders. Otherwise, we cannot run those type of initiatives. So what's happening in the US? Well, probably this is familiar to all of you. We have myriad regulations in place, which is impacting, which is preventing us to move freely with graphology. It's been very interesting in Central and South America. We've been able to get certified in those countries, and it's still in progress to get some others completed. So what we would like to share with you today is we have some suggestions how we could move the needle a little bit in terms of having more presence in the US and probably internationally. I was researching a little bit yesterday with Robert, and we found some really interesting facts. So let me share this with you. The EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, fights against any sort of discrimination. And we don't want to have any problem dealing with that, right? Mm-hmm. So based on the international agreements, like Robert referred, we have the NAFTA, North America Federal Trade Agreement. In that agreement, graphology is included as an economic activity. So we have a bridge between Canada, US, and Mexico. And it's stated in that agreement. So I encourage you to find out more information about what specifically we should do to have the graphology recognized in the US. We have a huge advance with NAFTA, with that agreement. So let's take advantage of that. In the US, I've seen that there are some other institutes that could be used as another option, another alternative, in order to be certified. If we can have this competence certified in the US, graphology could be seen as a recognized competence. And then it'll be a different story for the US. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. We are spreading out the word, not only in the US, in the Americas. And Robert has also achieved a conference in Spain, Italy, Switzerland. So this is just the beginning. We want to achieve more. We want to go above and beyond, but sharing all this information with you, I think that together we can make that happen. Because basically, our bias is through collaboration. We cannot accomplish this alone. We have some other institutions like the Institute of Management Consulting in the US. Probably we can explore that option as well. We have the Certified Management Consultant Organization. Probably we can explore that as well in the US. For Canada, we have certificates of competence under the Cabinet Directive on Regulatory Management. So probably that's another option that we could explore. We have the Canada-US Regulatory Cooperation Council. There's another organism. This is the International Project Management Association, which could help us with the competency based on certification systems. As I said before, based on skills, behaviors, and a specific profile. For Nigeria, there is an organization. This is the Project Management Development Association of Nigeria. So probably that's another option for you and Makyov. And this is just a reference. What we are trying to do is spread out the word. Let's do the homework together, but this is probably the beginning of something big. Okay, and by the way, I don't want to miss Indonesia. So we have the option to explore under the labor competency certification, specifically under social sciences. And then you go to HR management. So that could be another option for Indonesia as well. So as you can see, we have a lot of roadblocks, but it's very important to mention that men and women have exactly the same rights, the same opportunities. However, using graphology, that's a different conversation. And that's exactly when HR and graphology happen to meet again. So we need to be very careful about how we handle that part. And there are a lot of regulations in place, and it's always important to have an attorney behind us, because we don't want to get in trouble with those legal matters. And we are facing so many changes in the US, talking about healthcare, labor, environmental. So the reflection here is there is a lot of work to be done. This is just the beginning. And in this room, we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of graphology experts. So this is just a matter of moving that needle. And I believe that we have the potential and we have all the elements to make that happen. So I want to finish my presentation with a quote. You were born to succeed. In order to meet your potential, you have to plan, you have to prepare, and you have to expect to succeed. So, my very last question for all of you. Who has the key for success? I believe that all of you. Thank you. Sure.
Do you have like a document explaining the competence that you have put into place?
Yes. There is a body of that specific competence. We can share that information with all of you if you're interested. We can explore and start drafting or maybe tailoring that document for all of you. So